You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Good morning and happy Saturday, folks. We appreciate you listening in. You're listening to the Valley Labor Report. My name is David Story. I'm here with my co-host Jacob Morrison up in Connecticut. And Jacob, I believe we got another brother on the line as well, right?
That is right. That's right. Yes. Thanks for listening, folks. We appreciate your time. We have on the line Vaush. Vaush is he's a big YouTuber. He's got a YouTube channel. You can just search YouTube for Vaush. He's got he just celebrated 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. And we've been talking some, and so we've got kind of an interesting thing going on from the perspective of like lefty type media folks. Left-wing union talk radio show on a conservative talk station in rural Alabama. So Vaush has zoomed in, and Vaush, we appreciate you calling.
Yeah, of course, David, Jacob. Thank you both very much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So Vaush, what's on your mind? What have you been talking about? Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about your channel, what you do, and what you've been talking about lately.
Yeah. So I made my channel just, it's almost been 2 years now. And what I mostly wanted to do was, I guess, address from a leftist perspective some of the social and political issues that have been boiling up the country over the past 4 or 5 years. This increasing descent we've gotten into this culture war. It's not enough just to argue over policy anymore. It seems like the sides have been polarized to the extent that we're really fighting a civilizational battle. And at first, this was like a silly little project. I'd go over other YouTube videos, but now things have heightened to the extent that every stream now feels like we're holding back the tide. Trying to hold the dam together. Because stuff has been getting pretty crazy, especially over the past few months. Of course, we just had the RNC. Lately, of course, we've been talking about, among other things, the BLM protests and the eviction crisis, which we just seem to have forgotten about as a nation, which is extraordinary. I can't believe we've stopped talking about that.
The eviction crisis, and not only the eviction crisis, but the unemployment crisis as well. It's across the board.
Yeah.
Nobody's concerned about people that are struggling right now.
It really is amazing because a study came out that showed 48% of Alabama renters are at risk of eviction right now. And there's so many other important, like you said, life-threatening, nation-rattling news stories that 48% of Alabama renters potentially being homeless in the next 2 months hasn't even broken into the conversation. Like I saw that the Alabama College GOP, they were just tweeting out about their tirade against the Chinese Communist Party in state universities, the Confucius Institutes or something. And this is their big thing, the college GOP in Alabama. And literally 50% of renters in Alabama, almost 50% of renters in Alabama are looking at being homeless in the next 2 months. And at the same time, there are two things. There's one trend is that they're focused on this culture war, meaningless nonsense. And then the other trend is that there are so many other actual real issues that the eviction crisis is actually falling through the cracks, even if you only focus on real issues for working people.
Yeah, and what the issue is, and listen, I would love to live in that America where the reason we're not talking about the eviction crisis and the unemployment crisis is because there are so many other real issues that are being discussed. But having just come off the tail end of the RNC, man, if only you said it, right now, Alabama is being hit especially hard. But I think even the states that are being least affected, we're seeing in the range of 25 to 30% of renters are facing eviction. And from the RNC, what are they talking about? Cancel culture. They're talking about people who have been mean to them on Twitter. They're talking about They're talking about the need for hard work and individuality, the need for personal responsibility in a time of unprecedented global crisis. For these people to come down on the working man with stories of, well, if our billionaires made it, you can too. It's disgusting, and nobody's talking about it. And the Democrats are scarcely any better. The DNC was, I mean, perhaps not as contemptuous, but they weren't talking about these issues either, because neither of them are willing to offer a real solution. We begin $1,200. We're 6 months into the lockdown. $1,200. That's not enough to get you a studio apartment in the most barren rural Midwest town in America for that length of time.
And it really, you know, what you're saying, look at the RNC convention. What was their platform? Support Trump. That is the entire platform. I mean that's true. Everybody is talking about it this past week, but that's the truth. Where's the substance? Where is policy issues? It's all based on the Trumpism, the Trumpification of America. I can't believe that he gets reelected. I cannot believe that moderate Republicans are buying into this horse crap. I don't know. Maybe they are. I don't know.
They have nothing past that. Yeah, they have really doubled down on that message. What I was thinking was, because Trump's first presidential term has been an unmitigated disaster, if you actually look at his campaign promises and what he's fulfilled, and what I thought was maybe the Republican Party's going to distance themselves a little bit, you know, like Trump will run again in 2020, but the Republican Party's just going to try to weather the storm. They're going to start publicly denouncing him. They'll go full Lincoln Project, but they haven't. Dissent amongst the Republicans is lower than it's ever been. They have completely consolidated behind his failure of a first term. It's extraordinary how far they're going with this.
Well, I think that speaks to the fact that the Republicans really have no policy in general other than let's cut taxes for corporate, you know, the corporate elite. I mean, really, in the past 20 years, that's been their only policy. I mean, granted, they run on these wedge issues on abortion and gun control or gun rights, but other than that, they have no talking points for the 99% of the working class in America.
Yeah, and they lead people around on the stick by those issues, you know.
Right.
Republicans don't care about gun rights. The people who are writing these laws have private armies where they sit in mansions in their gated communities. They don't care about gun rights. They don't personally need guns. And same with abortion. They don't care. Their mistresses get knocked up. They'll do what they want to do. What they care about, and you're right, and this is the only thing Republicans have ever been good at following through on, is cutting taxes. And that's maybe Trump's one, if you could call it a success, his one filled promise of his presidency were the tax cuts. But that's it. And their platform is just broken on that. And I don't know what it's going to take, because there are a lot of Republicans right now who are looking down the barrel of eviction, and I don't know what it's going to take for them to look at that and think, okay, who's responsible for this, you know?
Yeah, well, not even the ones that are looking down the eviction. The ones that are sitting there that, like myself, that are still work, that are saying, well, if they can't afford it, they should be kicked out. The problem is that destroys the entire community, the entire economic community in that area, because there's not if you've got 50% of the people in Alabama on the verge of eviction, there's no one coming in behind those folks to fill those houses or those apartments. They're just it's a catastrophe.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's going to be a real solution to this. And the upsetting thing is, 100 years ago, if something like this was happening in this country, if we were facing an unprecedented unemployment eviction crisis, there would be union leaders and workers' riots on the streets. There would be socialists leading marches. But today, I think people are so distanced from the reality of working class life in this country. People are so incensed to believe that it's just them, it's their fault, they messed up, rather than a systemic problem, that they don't have that unified identity. They don't have that solidarity.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, you hear so much. It's pounded into you from every direction, from the teachers, from the pulpit, from your family, from your friends. your peers, your colleagues, everything here in Alabama at least is you are responsible for everything in your life. There's almost no consideration for the environment that you find yourself in and the environment that others find themselves in. There's almost no no real teaching for empathy and consideration for the shoes that other people are walking in, and it's really detrimental. I think it's cancerous to our society.
And we'd never do this to another country, too. We recognize tyranny in other countries, you know. When it comes to, if we were looking at, I don't know, what's the, like Venezuela. Republicans love to talk about Venezuela, you know. Republicans won't talk about some poor, you know, worker in Venezuela being responsible. You know, if they only worked a little harder, maybe if they'd saved up. No, there's a myth in this country. It's specific to the myth of this country that people are exclusively responsible, not just for what they do, which they are. Everyone's responsible for what you do, but for the things that happen to you. And that just ain't true. I think this is best showcased with the school choice crap they were pushing, the whole RNC. I swear every day multiple people would mention school choice, and it's ingenious because there are a lot of poor folk in this country, especially a lot of poor black folk, who live in crap neighborhoods with crap schools. Their kids can't get a good education, and rather than invest in these communities and fix these problems, the school choice narrative is, well, okay, if you can take your kid to another school, if you have that legal option, and then you don't, even if it's not feasible because you work 3 jobs and don't have a car, then it's your fault your kid's not getting education. Now, if you're not willing to drive 2 miles over to, you know, the next district to get their school instead, it's your fault. It's always a way of shuffling the blame back onto the individual.
Yeah, and not just, you know, you're alluding to more metropolitan cities, but what we deal with here in Alabama, school choice is crap here. I mean, in my area, if my kids choose to go to another school, you're not talking about 2 miles down the road. You know, we're out in the middle of nowhere. You're talking about possibly 10, 15, 20 miles down the road. And the fact is, most working parents are not going to be able to take off every morning 30, 45 minutes or an hour to get their children to that school in the neighboring city. That's just not going to, it's impractical, and
God,
it's not
for
workable.
8 years? Like, my God, you know, that is an unbelievable burden to place on somebody. And we're going to do that, and we're going to make sure they know they're at fault if they're not willing to follow through on that. And it's terrible. And it's terrible to the parents, but so many people don't realize it. They think they're being given choice when what they're being given is an excuse to be blamed.
Yeah.
Right. Vaush, that's exactly right. I appreciate you calling in. I enjoyed talking to you. I wish we had longer to talk. You know, we've only got an hour and a half show every week, so we do what we can. But Vaush, if folks want to hear more, where can they find you?
Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, on YouTube, I'm Vaush. That's V-A-U-S-H. Not banned for defending the interests of the working class just yet, but we'll see moving into 2021. I really appreciate both of you having me on. I had a phenomenal time. These are serious issues, and I really wish they were being given the attention they deserve at a national stage.
I completely agree. Again, that's Vaush. You can find him on YouTube. He's on Twitter at VaushV. I just came across his stuff maybe in the past month or two. When you've been getting your big subscriber surge, you kind of fell into my algorithm. So you know, folks, find Vaush. He's got some good stuff on the YouTubes, and again, we appreciate him calling in. And we will be taking some more calls in our last segment. That is 1-866-494-9866 is the number if you would like to talk to us. We've got one more segment. So again, give us a call, 1-866. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist.
If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to The Valley Labor Report. transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.